2023 was a bad year for movies, and 2024 is probably going to be a lot more of the same, and rightfully so. A lot of the studios in Hollywood have started taking their fans for granted, and people are really, really tired of it, and you can kind of see that through some of the box office numbers, or the box office disasters, as I like to call them, that have been kind of showing themselves over the past few years.
We're sick of your shit.
Now, today we're going to be talking a little bit about one of the movies that came out right towards the end of 2023 in Aquaman. But before we do that, you guys already know what I'm about to ask you guys to do. Hit that like and subscribe button for more content. I'm trying to make sure as many people find this channel as possible. The only way I'm going to do that is with you guys' help. So come on.
Help a brother out.
What most people don't know about me on this channel is that movies are actually one of my biggest passions in the world. I'm a big superhero fanatic, and honestly, superheroes are my jam, science fiction are my jam. I secretly wish I had superpowers, and I mean, don't we all? But one of the things that me and one of my best friends did over, I believe it was during the pandemic, right around like 2021, was that we actually sat through the entire Infinity Saga of Marvel and watched every single movie, starting from Captain America, the first Avenger, all the way down to Avengers Endgame, and we did that about twice, if I can recall correctly.
We had a good deal of time on our hands.
And that was, to me, the golden age of Marvel movies, the golden age of superhero movies. And even though I personally consider myself a little bit more of a DC fan,
not gonna apologize for that,
I would like to say that that was honestly the best I've ever seen on the superhero genre. And I think what we've been seeing transpire over the past, I would say, 2 years or so, ever since Avengers Infinity War and Endgame kind of came out, has been a degradation of the quality that we've been seeing in the superhero genre. And not just the superhero genre, but we've been seeing a degradation in the quality of movies in general.
It's really sad.
And with Aquaman, and full disclosure, I didn't even watch Aquaman. I didn't really bother watching Aquaman because I've essentially lost faith in all of the movies that have been coming out in Hollywood. So I've just stopped spending my money there, because at the end of the day, right now we're going through a recession and I'm not going to be wasting my money on shitty things. So I'm just not watching them. But I want to talk a little bit about what I saw in Aquaman 1 that I don't think was going to be in Aquaman 2. So we're going to be doing that a little bit today. Now, for anybody who saw Aquaman 1, or anybody who is a fan of the DC Universe, Detective Comics, for those of you who don't know what that is, for anybody who saw Aquaman 1, Aquaman 1 was actually a really, really good movie. And yes, I'm going to say this, I liked Amber Heard in Aquaman 1 too. It was a really, really good movie. She did a really good job portraying the character that she portrayed.
I can't believe I just said that.
Now, following Aquaman 1, and I believe it hit $1 billion. I may be wrong on that, but I believe it hit $1 billion because a lot of people like that movie. But following Aquaman 1, we all know of the highly publicized Amber Heard, Johnny Depp case that ended up with essentially Johnny Depp being, well, let me roll it back a little bit. Johnny Depp was obviously accused by Amber Heard of being an abusive husband throughout their relationship.
When you testified, you found it hard to believe that Mr. Depp would tell the world that he's a victim of domestic abuse, didn't you?
I said I find it hard to believe that he would do that, knowing that he himself had beat me up for 5 years.
And it led to him essentially losing all of his roles, all of his acting gigs, and his livelihood was essentially brought into question because of these accusations that she had made right around the height of Me Too, and people kind of rallying around women to fight against like assault and like these domestic violence cases. And Amber Heard was probably the worst example of that, because she was essentially made out to look like a victim in a situation where she was essentially the perpetrator in most people's opinions. And what most people kind of wanted to do and saw throughout that entire situation was the consequences that Johnny Depp had faced and the lack of consequences that Amber Heard had faced, especially after it was found out that she was essentially lying and manufacturing most of her story and most of her accusations against him.
And it pissed people off.
I think that really, really cost Aquaman 2 a lot. Now, you would kind of think that, and this kind of goes to show a little bit of what I think is wrong with the Hollywood elites and the Hollywood business people, is that you would kind of think that if these people were business savvy enough, they would go and they would understand some of the cultural sentiment around what had happened and what had transpired between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, and they would have made their business decisions accordingly.
But that didn't happen.
Now, me personally, if I was a business savvy person, and I kind of would consider myself a little bit of a business savvy person, I'm obviously not like a major businessman or anything, but I would notice that, well, there's this backlash coming toward this woman who essentially lied about her husband. He lost everything, or, well, was threatening to lose everything. And now his name is still kind of marred and slandered a little bit, because whenever you get accused by something like that, or something of that nature, you kind of, it's kind of a cloud that follows you throughout everything you do. But he was essentially absolved in whatever way you want to consider it. But what people were trying to see was whether or not they would hold Amber Heard accountable for kind of what the massive backlash that she was getting, because she had essentially spoken at rallies and made herself to look like the victim when she was obviously actually the perpetrator.
Daughters of a generation of equality. We have inherited far too much to be resigned to accept injustice, and together we are far too strong to excuse it any longer. I want to thank you all today for being here and being a part of changing our world. I want to thank every one of you who wakes up and looks for the blame and the sounds of chanting and thinks, yes, fuck yes, enough is enough, time's up, me too.
And what a lot of people saw through this entire situation was that Amber Heard didn't really have any consequences. She was still allowed to keep her roles. She was allowed to continue acting in Hollywood when, if it was Johnny Depp had already lost his Disney contract. He had lost movie roles from Warner Brothers. He had lost a lot of things. I'm a Harry Potter fan as well, and I was really, really looking forward to seeing him in Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, or I think it wasn't The Crimes of Grindelwald, it was The Secrets of Dumbledore. And they had essentially replaced him with a different actor who did a spectacular job, in my opinion, of replacing a character like Johnny Depp, but we still would have preferred to see Johnny Depp in that movie. However, going back to Aquaman here, I thought that what happened was, one, people are having less money to spend. Two, the Amber Heard situation isn't helping the situation whatsoever. And three, they've been sucking. We've all started to notice a degradation in the quality of the media that we've been seeing, especially through movies and Hollywood in particular. And all of this was kind of the perfect storm. And I actually thought, if I was a business savvy person that I was running one of these companies, I thought it was actually a really, really great marketing opportunity for them to actually be able to come out and say, hey,
We hear you loud and clear.
Amber Heard is not going to be in this movie. Like, could you imagine the amount of people that, even if they weren't fans of Aquaman, or even if they weren't planning on seeing Aquaman, could you imagine the amount of people that would have just bought a ticket to go support Aquaman just based on the fact that they didn't want Amber Heard to be in that movie? If they could have marketed the shit out of that the way that they should have, this movie would have probably done better than it's doing currently. And I'm obviously not saying that it was going to make like $1 billion or anything. I think the days of superhero movies making $1 billion and them spitting out $1 billion movies are far behind us. Now, I could be wrong,
But I doubt it.
That remains to be seen, and I would like to be proven wrong in this, but I just think the superhero genre as a whole is kind of losing its allure to fans. It's losing its allure to, especially because if you have a predominantly male demographic of supporters and male demographic of consumers, the last thing that those male consumers want to see is, one, this push toward female superheroes. Like, nobody cares about that. We don't that's not something that we look at as indicative of the female experience. The superhero genre and the superhero story and the hero's arc and the hero's journey and all of that, whatever you want to call it, is primarily the story of men.
Sorry, not sorry.
And what these people aren't understanding is that the story of men it's not condemning women in any way, but it's not the story of women. That's why I think some of the writing that we've seen surrounding some of these female superheroes has kind of just fallen on deaf ears, because people don't look at women as synonymous with the superhero journey that men kind of have to go through, one, in just regular life, but also on the cinematic stage. And that's why a lot of these are failing. But going back to Aquaman in particular, I think if they had just legitimately understood their audience and understood that, one, we're not seeing any success in the box office, the shift toward the female superheroes hasn't been working, and three, our audience is male predominantly, and the whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation is something that probably hits them in a way that it won't hit a predominantly female audience. If they would have just noticed all of that and just came out and said, hey, Amber Heard will not be in this movie, I promise you it would have done a lot better than it's doing now or is going to be doing in the future.
Guaranteed.
But that's just my little 2 cents on it, guys. Let me know. Have you guys seen Aquaman? Is it a good movie? Should I bother watching it? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys on the next one. If you liked what you heard today, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you didn't like what you heard, thanks for watching the whole video. Consider leaving a comment in the comment section and telling me exactly what you disagreed with. Either way, thanks for joining me on this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.